When you're trying to take ownership of a mistake made by a fellow team member, what do you do if the team leader asks for a step-by-step breakdown of events? I've said it was our mistake and not made excuses, but a step-by-step breakdown would expose the fact that he alone was responsible for the error.
Interesting.
So he basically.
Do you think that's interesting?
It is. Wait. So he's basically saying, okay, it's our mistake, right? I don't want to individualize this guy or so, make him stand out or whatever. It's our mistake and we're gonna fix it, kind of thing. And he's like, no, I want the step by step, but the step by step is gonna reveal that is the solo.
Was actually Bill's fault. Now what I do? I tried so hard to take ownership. But here's the problem. Right. It was actually Bill that was all jacked up.
It's actually not my fault.
So it's actually not my fault, is what we're saying. It's the truth, right? You get that, right?
Yeah, I get.
Because check it out. Who's responsible?
Leaders responsible.
When you're taking ownership of something, when you're taking extreme ownership of something, whose fault is it?
Yeah, mine.
Yeah,
sure.
Does that include when someone else on your team makes a mistake?
Yes.
But how can that be?
Gus, man, it's your team.
So let me ask you these questions. Here's what I'd be thinking. The teammate was in error. Why? Well, why did the teammate make a mistake? Why didn't the teammate have backup? Why didn't the rest of the members of the team? Why didn't I actually go through with him and make sure that he knew how to do that procedure properly? Mm-hmm. He's part of my team. We're responsible for this taking place. I knew he was a little bit shaky and I didn't do anything to fix it. That's why it's our fault. It's not our fault because we say, oh, it's our fault, but it's really Bill.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about. The point is to actually own it. So if my coworker fails, I'm literally saying to myself, what mistake did I make that my coworker dropped the ball? Yeah. What mistake did I make? My coworker dropped the ball. What mistake did I make? Mm-hmm. Did I not show it to him? Did I not ask him if he knew how to do it? Did I not ask him if he needed some help? Did I not confirm that he knew the procedures correctly? All those things are my fault. Did I not do a good job of identifying that Bill was a little bit slow on the uptake and therefore he needed a little extra preparation for this? Mm-hmm. And now think about this. What can I do once I make those mistakes? Okay, what can I do to fix them? And now think about this from a leadership perspective. You go down and you say, hey, you guys messed up this thing. Why did it happen? Mm-hmm. Now think about the team where everyone goes, well, it's our fault. Mostly Bill. Right?
Sure.
And I'll tell you, when I look at a platoon and Bill made a mistake, I don't look at Bill. A good leader doesn't just look at Bill. A good leadership looks at everyone on the team, especially certainly the leadership. But I think this guy's talking about from a peer, but it doesn't matter. From a peer perspective, if there's a mistake that happens, we are truly responsible.
Yeah.
And then from a leadership perspective, when I go down to the team and I say, hey guys, what happened? And they say, well, it was our fault, but this is what Bill did. Yeah. I go, okay, so you just dropped a dime on Bill. I'm not going to say that, but I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so it's all Bill's fault. Cool. I'll tell you what. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you say, hey, listen, boss, this is what happened. Here's the procedures we went. I don't think we did a good job of briefing Bill because here's what Bill did. He did step 3 instead of step 4. My fault. We went through it twice, but I should have gone through it a couple more times and confirmed he knew what was going on. It's not going to happen again. We got this. Yeah. Which guy are you wanting to work for? Which guy which team do you want? Mm-hmm. You want the team where people are taking ownership of the problem, not blaming Bill. Mm-hmm. Ownership is not just saying we own it. Ownership is actually owning it. Yeah. And that's what makes it so powerful. What makes it so powerful is if you actually own it, then you actually look at Bill beforehand and you go, look, in our team, do we have any weaknesses? Yeah, we do. We got Bill. Bill can't get this part of the procedure done right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put Bill into this other position that's an easier part of the procedure. We're going to make sure he knows how to do that. Meanwhile, we're taking Mike, and Mike is going to go down here and he nails this procedure, and he's going to spend, by the way, an extra 15 minutes a day during lunch. He's going to get Bill trained up so Bill can eventually. That's the kind of thing you do on a team.
Yeah, you made it pretty clear, which is kind of, because it's not that easy to understand, or it wasn't for me anyway. I mean, put it this way, it was very valuable when I did understand this about extreme ownership. I said this before too, by the way. So there's essentially 2 parts of it that make it extreme ownership. Well, actually, there's 3. There's the dichotomy. But aside from the dichotomy, this is what it is. You take responsibility, and then you say what you're going to do to fix the problem. Right?
And then actually there's a third part, which is you implement the solution.
Yes, okay.
You identify it, you own the problem, you identify a solution for the problem, and then you implement the solution.
Yes.
That's what you do.
Yeah. So a lot of times especially in the beginning, like I would just, as far as me just kind of casually trying to understand it, I would focus so much on taking responsibility. It was my fault, kind of thing. It's like, well, the taking responsibility, is arguably more important than saying that it's your fault kind of thing. It's essentially you're taking responsibility of the solution as well.
Yes.
If not because in a way, in a lot of practical cases, you don't even have to identify whose fault it is if you take responsibility of the solution. Like if I'm okay here, so if there's a football team, right? That's like the epitome of not the epitome, but a good example of teamwork.
Never mind the SEAL teams or whatever, but we'll go with it.
Right. Well, football is it'll be more simple because it's so let's say, okay, we got a pass or whatever, and boom, the play starts and a guy gets through the front line. Let's say the guard missed a block. Obvious, right? He missed it. Maybe he looked one way and he was supposed to look this way. He was supposed to not pull and he tried to pull or something. Maybe he just made a mistake. He's not incompetent. He just made a mistake. Whose fault is it? The guard's fault. Okay. But if the quarterback's going to take extreme ownership, he's going to be like, hey, no problem. Hey, this happened. Next time I'm going to remind him, hey, on this play, this red 46 curve twist or whatever, you don't pull. And he'll probably be like, oh man, I know. Don't scold him. Just be like, hey, you don't pull. Hey, no problem. But we're just not going to do that anymore. And then next time I call that play, I'm going to be like, you're good, right? I'm going to check with him. I didn't check with him that first time he made a mistake. I'm going to check with him. He won't make that mistake again. Kind of like you when we were navigating me,
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things. The quarterback took responsibility for solving the problem.
Yes.
More so than he was like, okay, let's... that was my fault. They're making a big deal out of it being his fault, even though in his head it is. It's like, okay, this is my fault. I should make sure things are clear, kind of thing. Like the weather too. Your weather example.
Well, what bothers me the most about this question is I feel like I don't do a good job of explaining this. Because what bums me out is someone whoever wrote this question, and it's a good question. I get the question. I get scared that the person that's listening to the question goes, no, Jocko doesn't quite get it. He doesn't quite get the fact that there was this one guy who was part of the team who made this mistake, and no one, we can't hold his hand every time. Like it's not my fault. It's not our team's fault when Bill completely drops the ball. That's not my fault. It's not anyone on the team's fault. And my point is exactly what you are saying, Echo. Yes, it is. And if you look at it, when Bill makes the mistake himself, he's alone in a room and he's supposed to put part A on top of part B and bolt them together. That's his part of the job. He's alone in a room doing that. And he doesn't do it, right? That's 100% his fault. The answer is no, actually. Who's in charge of training him? Who's in charge of checking? Who not even in charge of, who's responsible? We are a team. That means we work together. That means we confirm that we know how to do our individual parts of the job. That means we check and say, hey, Bill, are you good? Hey, Bill, let me check your first 3 that you do to make sure you understand what's happening. We do this together as a team, and it makes me feel like a failure that people have a hard time understanding this. And I know it can be a stretch. It can be a stretch. And, I give all those examples. Hey, the machine gunner shoots in the wrong direction. Whose fault is that? It's not the machine gunner literally pointed the machine gun in the wrong direction, pulled the trigger, and shot in the wrong direction. Whose fault is it? It's the squad leaders. It's the fire team leaders. It's the platoon leaders, because they didn't make sure that he understood his field of fire, make sure he understood how to operate his weapon. And by the way, there's a chance that the reason that Bill screwed this up, and Bill is incapable of putting these parts together correctly. And if that is the situation, guess what? It is a responsibility of the team to either get him trained up to where he can do it, or to tell the leadership that this guy he's incapable of doing the job, and therefore he needs to not be here.
Yeah.
That's what ownership is. That's what extreme ownership is.